Let's jump into it. I want to introduce my friend, Katie Wiggy of Creative Beauty Collective. I've worked with her for many years. She has a wealth of knowledge about the category and so beautifully ties these conversations together around beauty innovations on the brand side and how retailers and influencers can effectively partner. So I'll bring Katie up to introduce our panelists. Thanks for being here. And Katie, thank you so much for leading us through the conversation today.
Thanks for having me, Jessica. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. I am so excited to be here, and we have a great panel for you today. I'm going to start with Jen Caro from Whole Foods, and she is the Whole Body Vice President. She's going to be giving us a lot of insight from the retailer perspective. We have Andrew Verbis, who is the Pacha CEO and co-founder, to give us the brand side of the story, and then Cassandra McClure, who is a consumer advocate and host of the Clean Living Show, and is going to give us some of that influencer consumer side of the story as well. So welcome, guys. Come on up. Thanks for joining me today. Jen, we are actually going to start with you. And we're going to start with the topic of merchandising within Whole Foods and looking for examples of brands doing it right in your space that really stand out. I wonder who you're going to talk about.
Okay, can you hear me? Great. Well, I think a really great example, not just because he's here on the stage, but I'll tell you why, is Pacha soap. Experiential bath is what we call the category that has all of our bulk bath, our bulk soap, and it's a really, really important category to us and a big differentiator at Whole Foods. And what makes it so special is that it really is our first impression with our customers. It's the thing they see first, it's the thing they smell first, and it usually brings people into the department. So beyond just the visual nature of it, the beauty of seeing everything stacked up and colorful and beautiful, also it's that eye-catching sensory experience that brings you in. And so that's a really important part of every store that we have, is that display. Really count on that to help bring people into the department. And a lot of times, people who've never shopped in our department before, it's the first thing they ever buy with us. And so we kind of hook them with it and then bring them into the department where they get to experience our amazing team members who can kind of introduce them to everything else. So I think that's a perfect example of something that really sets us apart, something that's really beautiful and interesting, and also helps bring people into the department.
It gets me every time. The Pacha displays, those soap displays, the scents, they hit you, but then also the colors, the textures, which, Andrew, leads me to your brand strategy when you're looking at your amazing product line, how it's going to be displayed, how it's going to interact with the consumer. Can you elaborate a little bit on your successful merchandising strategy within a retailer like Whole Foods?
Yeah. There's this term biomimicry, which I heard, I don't know when, but like zippers came from looking at plants and observing, oh, there's a plant that does this, and a lot of other examples of biomimicry. But when we think about merchandising or even product development, it's looking at what have we been programmed over thousands of years of walking in the rainforest, or like, ancient markets. Like, there are things that we operate under that are not always cognitive, where we don't think. And most of the time, even including my speech right now where I'm not thinking about what I'm saying, most of the time we're operating under that mind space. And so when we think about product development, you can get super cognitive and you can get super focused on all of the science behind something, but what we found with our merchandising, with our product development, is something that looks amazing and is beautiful is similar to how we used to discover the finest fruits in the rainforest thousands of years ago. So it's like trying to appeal to some of those things that already exist that you don't have to think about so much. I think is the best marketing because you're appealing to our natural state, among other things. But that's I'd say the main one.
I love that perspective. It really does bring it back to such a simplistic way of consumer shopping and identifying really what you want to purchase. So, Sandra, going over to you as a consumer advocate, part of that, getting that foot traffic in the store is about getting shoppers in, and influencers has become such a part of that. Can you touch on what creators and influencers are looking for with brands and partnerships, retailers like a Whole Foods?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that my job is to serve my audience and to give them the knowledge that they need so they don't have to think as much and even understand all the ingredients. So my key one that I always share is avoid fragrance because so many ingredients can be housed in that. And it's funny, subconsciously, when I first got Pacha in my house, it was the hand soap. And then when I went back, I had already looked at those ingredients and tried that product, and then ended up getting the bubble bath, and so on and so on. And I think that's how consumers think. They try something, and once they like it, they go back and they try the other products. And I naturally share that with my audience. I share what brands are ethical and clean, or B Corp, or organic, or vegan, and I speak to the different audiences that ask me questions on, what bubble bath can I get for my kid, and give them those options.
I love that. I think it touches on so many different aspects of how consumers engage with brands and retailers today. So Jen, within the foot traffic that comes into Whole Foods, it can be from a variety of tactics, whether it's your traditional marketing mailers, influencers, digital media. Can you talk on what you've seen in your department specifically being successful with brands?
Yeah, I think one of the things we have evolved to do really well at Whole Foods is storytelling. And one of our newish, maybe for the last 2 years, strategies we've employed as a strategy around events. And so pretty much every month when you come in our stores, you'll see across the store a whole marketing package based around an event. A great one for us in May is around Mother's Day, so you'll see lots of signage throughout the store. And then we will typically pair that with the promotion. In this inflationary environment, we really want to make sure we're demonstrating value to our customers. So we'll have a great industry-leading price that's even better if you're a Prime member, tied back to the marketing message for Mother's Day. We'll have social campaigns. We'll have demos and elements of discovery throughout the store. And then also, a lot of our brands will leverage their own marketing strategies and their influencer strategies to drive traffic into our stores. So I follow many of our brands on Instagram, if not all of them, and I'm always seeing them tagging us, come to Whole Foods during the sale, and they're really driving the promotion too. So it all ties together because it's really based around the customer need. In May especially, it's like everyone's getting things for their moms. You're already in the store shopping for your groceries. Maybe you're making a special Mother's Day brunch. Come on over and get what we have to offer. We also create really special limited time offering products. So we do a couple beauty bags every year that are usually like get them while they're hot. So it drives a lot of excitement and energy. And we see a lot of social traffic around that as well, a lot of viral influencer traffic from items like that. So I would say that's one of our most important strategies we employ, is really centering everything around events and specific times of year that customers are looking for certain things.
I have gotten so many of those timely bags. I am a
Thanks
sucker
for your
for
support.
them. I love it. I discover what I need to try, and I lean into Whole Foods because I know when I walk through the door, it's been vetted. Whatever brand is there on shelf has gone through a rigorous exercise to be placed there. And I think that touches on your audience. If you're talking about a brand or a product, if you're using it on your child, they're going to follow and believe in that because there's authenticity in it. Andrew, could you lean in on some of the marketing strategies and tactics that you've used outside of the in-store display? How have you participated in events or any user-generated content to help support some of those sales?
Yeah, I think we're at the infancy of that. We haven't done as much as we will in the future, but what we've seen be super successful is people almost being carried away. Like even some of these photos, one of the most funny things I saw an influencer say one time on social was that she wishes she could have shrunk into a little fairy and lived in a soap stack and like been. It was the most funny thing. But like I think some of that content around being carried away with the display, almost like there's whimsy to it. My wife, Abby, and co-founder of the business, we talk a lot about how like childhood shouldn't and doesn't really end for everybody. And so it's like transporting people back to this sensory, childlike, whimsical experience. So having people in-store spot displays, even like, tagging themselves in various displays has been big. But another marketing thing that we've focused on is like, okay, I talked about biomimicry and this idea of creating products that naturally attract people, but it's up to us as a brand and a retailer to ensure that if we use that example of this product being like a fruit, that what's in that fruit, it's a good fruit or a good product. And so for us, that's all about ingredients and how we source. And so I see us like, sure, you could make something beautiful and whimsical and it could be bad for people and planet. But we try to take that all the way through and say, it's not the number one reason people are buying our product is not because they're trying to save the world, but that obviously it looks beautiful. So it's really up to us and retail partners to ensure that it is good fruit. So
I feel like those marketing tactics aren't always one size fits all, and especially with a conscious consumer, someone looking for clean beauty, it really is a recipe of so many different things. Your give back, your participation in events, within sampling to the consumers so they can try your brand. Cassandra, what advice do you have for brands out there to work with retailers and with partners to really bring that authenticity and message to their followers and communities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think sometimes as a creator, you don't really know what brands and what companies are actually looking for creators. So it's great when companies like Whole Foods has like a creator program or some sort of incubator, or they have an event where they're working with creators and to create content. And yeah, I think that we need more, we're obviously on social media, and so for the brands to be there where we can access them and they can actually get back to us and it's not an automated message, and have teams that are responsive that will send us amazing PR packages that we can organically share, and it's not like we can start on a really natural foot of essentially working together, which is always nice to have companies that are like, wow, we really align with you, like let's partner up. And it makes the creators want to go into Whole Foods and do a whole reel on finding and discovering the brands and talking through them all. And that's what I follow on social too. Like I just saw Courtney Swanson outside, and we were chatting about, her, that she goes into Whole Foods and she's always doing, roundups and talking about different brands. And it's how I've learned about Primal Foods and like all these other brands that are carried that I love to shop for. So it's how I shop too now, online.
Yeah, absolutely. Word of mouth, girlfriend recommended is what I always call it. Like, what is my girlfriend using? What is that smell? What is that food? So looking at the different strategies across the board, I definitely think it's interesting when you can combine the creator role and influencer marketing, but leverage it in with event participation, supporting the Mother's Day. I think it's a lot for brands on our side. We do indie beauty marketing, and so we see small budgets, and it's hard to compete. You might be looking at, well, how do I get all those samples in that bag? Or how do I pay a creator to create that content, to promote that promotion? So it can, start to really tighten a marketing budget. So Jen, I'll lean on you. What do you think is really important when it comes down to those tactics in your department that are gonna move the needle? Where should a brand lean in and invest?
That's such a great question. I've gone through like 4 different ways in my head to answer this in the last 5 seconds. I think if you're a small brand, it's really important that you get people to try your product first and foremost, right? Because you need them to try it, like it, and then buy it over and over again. So sampling, demos, things like that are really important. A lot of smaller up-and-coming brands are investing in social media and influencer strategies because we've seen time and time again, things go viral, and then the next thing you know, it's like overnight, everyone's coming to the store to ask for it. And that happens a lot. So I think when you're just starting out, it's all about creating awareness for your brand, and those are the ways you do it. In Whole Foods, so much of our traffic is shopping the perimeter of the store, and one of our key strategies is just to get people into the department. And a big part of the way you do that is by promoting, because people see the bright yellow tags. They're very attracted to the yellow tags. We've tried all different colors. Yellow's the color. And that's a way to get people to buy, especially if you have something that's a little more of like a mid-tier premium price. It's a big investment your first time going out to buy something. So if customers can get a little less, and that breaks down barriers for them to try it, and then they love it and they buy it again and again. I would kind of put it in that order, depending on like where your brand is at and your stage of growth. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I think that's insightful. And for your brand specifically, Andrew, because you're handcrafted, so much love goes into your line, from sourcing, from your give back. Where do you prioritize your marketing budget? Because what I actually appreciate, we just did some user-generated content and some collaborations and PR with you, but you've really prioritized sustainability and giving back in a way that's maybe a little different than other brands. Do you want to elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, for sure. There are companies that are definitely marketing organizations that maybe don't focus as much on the product experience, and then there's product companies that maybe lag on the marketing side, and the ideal is that you do both really, really well. We started off as a product company, and that's been our evolution, is focusing on the product experience, making something that's that people genuinely love, so that if it didn't have any brand on it, you'd be like, oh, I love this thing, because the essence itself is good. And that's not the way that the vast majority of, I think, companies or brands start. Honestly, it's just because I just liked making nice stuff, and so did my wife, and so we weren't marketers. That's probably how we started that way. The value then, and sort of how we're shifting, is, okay, we have the essence of something that's good, making that better all the time, but then marketing can tell that story in a way that conveys it in a more effective way, and like that's a lot through packaging design. And so as we're shifting, I wouldn't say shifting from product to marketing, but as we're adding that level of marketing to our company, we hope that it'll just attract more people to see that and then appreciate it. But I don't know if that answers it super well, but we've definitely been product focused. And I think because of we control our supply chain from end to end, all the way from sourcing to manufacturing to distribution, which is also kind of rare for brands. And so for us, we've focused on, as Jen said, like Mother's Day, partnering with our retail partners to say, what event is coming up? What can we make that is going to be appealing to someone as they're shopping? So our seasonal strategy has been huge to just meet someone where they're at. So we don't have to convince someone that It's time to buy for Mother's Day, for instance. Like, oh, it's the time.
Well, you want to with your product. It's like I try it and then I want to gift it or tell others about it. So I think you check the box right out of the gate with a good product, right? Otherwise, you're not on shelf at Whole Foods and then, struggling to be successful. But you guys have really knocked it out of the park. And that's where, in watching your recent reel with Pacha going into the Whole Foods store, it really does bring it to life. So for a consumer that isn't familiar with the brand, doesn't know the give back story, they really are hooked in with that 20 seconds sometimes is all it takes with digital media to get them in and discovering a brand. And so in working with a line like Pacha, what do you try to do to bring awareness and value also on the brand side versus just for your community?
Yeah, so goes back to education, because if I'm serving them, I usually want to give them information that's more than beyond the new pumpkin spice, scents and all of that. So I think in the most recent video, I talked about sustainability and how there wasn't packaging that was needed, and it's not necessary, and it's often wasteful. Like, there's brands out there that will package with in plastic and then another package and then another exterior box, and it's a complete waste. It's soap, and it doesn't need to be packaged in that way. And so I really touched on that really spoke to me, and that's what my audience, like, clean beauty is sustainability. It's like people, planet, and those, and obviously our health. And so I think that's what originally drew me to the brand with the aluminum bottles, because again, it's just taking that next step, because there's so much plastic waste. As we know, there's so much pollution and microplastics in our bodies and our brains. And so any step that can be taken to move in that direction that can help the other brands because other brands and other founders are looking at who's there and what's trending, and it is, and they will hopefully manufacture their products differently and think about those things a little bit more. And yeah, you asked good questions.
Well, I asked a few I didn't tell you, but just where the conversation was going. But I think it's so important if you're a small brand looking at a budget to know, well, where is it going to move the needle the most? Or how do I get on shelf at Whole Foods? How do I take some of these steps? And I think these are great examples and success stories of doing it right, especially in an age where consumers do want to make better choices across the board. It used to just be in the natural industry, but now it is really more mainstream. Shoppers' behaviors have changed, and so I think across the board, you guys are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's it for us, Jessica.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions out there? I know you guys are dying to ask something.
Thank you guys so much for coming. This is great.
Yeah, here we go.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. I want to ask you a question. You were talking always about small brands. What happened with small retailers? How can we effectively work with collaborator influencers in order to get the attract for our small retailers and bring customers in a very tight budget?
Yeah, for small retailers, I do think you can take a page from the Whole Foods playbook. I do think that looking at seasonality, looking at areas where you can do those gifting with purchase, special promotions, tying in Mother's Day or back to school season. I think as a small retailer, you just need to look at your community and look at how to be competitive for your specific audience. But Jen, do you have anything to elaborate as a small independent retailer?
I don't know that I have like the best advice for you on that. I think what you said is right. I think considering some of the things that I noted for the brands just around really asking your brands to help you as well. That's something even in the large retailers we look for is what are you doing to drive traffic to our stores, brand, Pacha, whomever it may be, asking your brands to support you in an appropriate way with promotions. I think a lot of the strategies the major retailers are doing are things you can scale for a smaller retailer. I don't know if either of you would have anything to add based on your experience.
Yeah, so as a strategic advisor, I work with a lot of small brands and businesses, and actually a lot of retail stores. I just worked with a floral company, and I just worked with a salon that just opened. And we actually pooled together at all the other businesses to create an event together. And so everyone allocated budgets and worked together to bring in their own audiences. And we had 100 people come to a little salon that otherwise no one would have even really knew opened in our town in California. And so I think strategy is important, and working together and using social media to amplify the message of whatever you're trying to do. And I think events, going back to events, is also, having an event, bringing in local customers and your brands, highlighting the founders, getting them on a talk, or having them do in-store experiences. I don't know what kind of business you have. I'm happy to chat with you after, but I think bringing excitement into the store or the establishment, and rewarding your VIPs, your customers, whoever you're working with a special happy hour, or it doesn't have to be huge. It can be just, hey, on Fridays we do an hour of XYZ, or once a month, and just bring in your key clients or card member holders, whatever it is that you have to make them feel special. Is that helpful? Thanks.
Hey guys, my name's Brian. I'm a founder of Treat a Tub. I got a question about storytelling. I really like how, Jen, your emphasis for storytelling in Whole Foods. It really gives a brand like Pacha an opportunity to really expose themselves to the audience with these vibrant colors and the scents. However, for my brand, I feel like I don't have that opportunity. A lot of my products in bottles, in these cardboard corrugated boxes. But I feel like there's so much to share about my brand and story. I mean, this is what my soap's made out of. It's a soap berry that's harvested in Asia. It's what people have been used for natural soap for hundreds of years. How can I tell that story just on a shelf? I've had trouble considering brick and mortar, and find it's been easier to show it online on a web page or influencer marketing, but I struggle with being able to show that on the shelf.
I have a few points of advice, and then maybe Andrew and Cassandra have some too. I mean, I think for unique products like that, you have to get it in front of people. You have to demo it in some form or fashion. Whatever retailer you're working with, look and see what demo programs they have. I also think educating the team members is critically important, especially when you have something super niche, like what you're describing to me. It sounds interesting, but also very specific. You need team members to be able to tell your story. That's something we really focus on at Whole Foods. I think we're pretty good at it, and we invest a lot of energy in it. I would also say, when you're a small niche brand like that, you also have to create that awareness that I was talking about, which is maybe where some social strategies come in, because the reality is people are not reading what's on the box anymore. Their attention span is 3 seconds. So you have to almost get in their mind before they come to the store, or be able to catch them very impulsively when they're shopping. So there might be something from a social influencer strategy that could be important for a product like that too.
Is the exhibitor here? No? Well, this is the place, right? So that we can all try it out and hear about it. But this is where I've discovered so many brands, Expo East, Expo West, all the major trade shows. This is where I usually meet founders and brands for the first time and create that relationship. And that's always really powerful. Like I've flown all over for many, many years, going to different trade shows to meet the people that are behind the brand and have made the products, because that in-person connection, like you can't duplicate that, and it is very special, and like you never forget. Like we take pictures, we do interviews, and we really get to know them and know their story so that we can retell that story. Absolutely. So you should be here next year.
This question's for Andrew. Speaking of the sensory experience that you want to create in your merchandising, what other channels I mean, obviously Whole Foods is the perfect partner to do something like that. What other channels have you had success with that enable that sensory experience in store for soap? I mean, that's to pull it out of the category.
Yeah. Whole Foods is unique in that they understand the value of that. But some that we've had a lot of success with are natural, independent, and premium grocery. Like people shop in premium grocery for carrots, and when they're all stacked beautifully, it just, I don't know, it looks more appealing. Like, oh, those carrots taste better. And again, back to biomimicry, like when you go up to a tree and it only has 2 fruits on it, you're like, I don't know. But if a tree has like 100 fruits, you're like, oh, that's nice. And I think that's built into grocery. So premium grocery we've seen successful, like natural independence, and small specialty has been successful. I'd say that's where we've had the most success with that merchandising, but it's appealing to more and more just because it works.
Hi, good evening. I run a baker's company, but I really believe food is the secret to beauty. Talking about a category bending possibility and how that will be treated by retailers. Let's say I have a cocoa mix that is going to, there's several flavors, but that will first of all help with women's PMS issues or menopausal issues, and the other one will give you beautiful skin glow, but it is a cocoa mix. How would you approach this type of product in retail?
You should check out Neeshi, Neeshi. They have a hormonal supplement support brand. I've been working with her a couple years, and her tagline is supporting women from menstruation through menopause. She just does it really well. She tells her whole story with her family, her teens struggling. Like the story is what resonated, and that's how we retell it, right? Retelling their story. But I know several other ones, but that's one of my friends. I can introduce you, but it might be helpful.
I'll also just add there are a lot of brands that play in both food categories and also like functional foods and supplements. We work with a lot of brands like that. And one of the best ways I think to tell your story is to partner with like-minded brands and either do events or do contests together, maybe come together in a promotional event or activation. I think that helps connect the dots for customers a lot of times. And I see a lot of brands doing that. They just network through their community of other brands that they know, kind of pull people together. They even do social storytelling and things like that. That might be what I would recommend, because again, it's about building that awareness. And then once people understand, then it's very easy to connect it to like a superfood in the supplements set partnered with a cocoa mix on an end cap or something like that, but it takes time to build that, and you have to really build that on your own as a brand to begin. Wonderful. Thank you. Is that our...
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.